I'm Carson Tate. I'm a management consultant and executive coach to Fortune 500 companies and leaders. I'm the author of 2 books, Own It, Love It, Make It Work. And my first book, Work Simply. My work has been featured in Harvard Business Review, the New York Times, Inc., Forbes, and numerous other publications. And today on the show, we're going to talk about loss aversion, why staying committed to what no longer works is undermining your profitability and your business. We're going to explore why employee engagement is no longer a one-size-fits-all game and how to stay curious, courageous, and collaborative to co-create the future of work. And as a bonus, I'm going to share with you how one company is going to lose one of their top performing executives by offering them $100,000.
Welcome back to part 2 of our delicious conversation with Carson Tate. Carson Tate serves as an executive coach and consultant to Fortune 500 companies. She's been featured in Bloomberg Business Week, Business Insider, and the Harvard Business Review, New York Times, and USA Today, and a whole bunch of other outlets. She's the author of 2 books. The first one is called Work Simply, and her most recent one is Own It, Love It, Make It Work. In part 1 of the show, we were talking really about this mutual responsibility. We've been talking about the Great Resignation. People just had enough and walking away, but maybe they're walking away without really realizing what they're walking away from. Sometimes, and particularly now, I mean, really right now, during this Great Resignation, there's so much more room, so much more leverage room on both sides to ask for specifically what it is you want. And we talked about getting clear on that, how to find out what it is that you actually want inside of a company, inside of a job, because oftentimes that's not what's happening. We're just going, oh, I hate this job, and then we're leaving. So we were talking about this mutual responsibility to step into that and own it, that the onus is on both sides. And Carson gave us some great ways of actually doing that and having those conversations. And so if you didn't hear part 1, go back, click back and hear part 1, because I promise you there's some real gems in that. Now, we're going to get into part 2 here. And in part 2, I want to talk about something that companies, organizations, industry really has spent literally, I'm not exaggerating, billions and billions of dollars on in the last decade alone, that has had just over a 1% change in making it better. So if you had to spend billions of dollars on your company to make something just a 1% better, I don't think you'd be very happy with your ROI on that. I'm sure you wouldn't, right? So the question is this: with the rate of return on engagement, because engagement just sucks, with all those billions of dollars, what is wrong, Carson? What's wrong with the engagement model we're using?
It's extrinsic motivated. It's an extrinsic motivator, and it's a one-size-fits-all. So it assumes that all employees need to be engaged. They want to have a wonderful office. They want to make sure they have a comfortable chair, tickets to the sporting event, compensation. That's not it. That's not it. It hasn't worked. We have doubled down on those types of perks and benefits, and a 1% return, it's not working. No. And it's not working also because we've forgotten that we actually co-create together, and that you have individual team members who have their own needs and bring their own unique skills to you, the employer, in exchange for an experience. And you can't create that environment that drives profit for you unless you know what your team members want and need to be fulfilled and engaged at work.
I think that one of the things I see, I'm sure you've got some great stories around this, but one of the things that I see is that companies approach engagement as a one-size-fits-all. I talked about in my books, I talked about how, companies that buy cappuccino machines and bean bags and foosball machines, and nobody gives a shit about that, right? I mean, maybe one person does, but nobody else does, because there was no consulting, there was no reciprocity of that process to get to it. Tell us an example of where you're seeing that this is just not working, or what can work.
So Dove got a call, it was early December, from a colleague of mine who was actually in-house at a large consulting firm. And she's like, you will never believe what happened yesterday. I was like, tell me. She's like, I got offered $100,000. Like, fantastic. That's great. She goes, no, my manager called me and said we were going to be giving you $100,000 retention bonus for you to stay with us. She said, I felt demoralized, unseen, unappreciated. Then I went to, why now? If you've always had this money, are you not paying me enough? She said it had the exact opposite reaction of the intended one.
Mm.
So $100,000 is significant. Yes, she wants the money, but really, that's not what's going to keep her connected to that company. For her, she wants to be able to use more of her strengths. She felt like she was not using everything that she was capable of using. She's like, my manager didn't even know that I had deep knowledge in Qualtrics and was a great analyst and really liked looking at data and using that to inform how we're putting together our development programs. Didn't even know it. No clue. She's like, and I'm more interested in shifting my role to do more executive coaching and having that one-on-one impact, but he doesn't know that either. I think I might look elsewhere.
What a great example of how command and control leadership thinks throwing money at a problem will fix it, and how loyalty is based on fiscal, and it's so not. And you know, what a powerful example that offering somebody $100,000, which, as you said, is significant. Most people are like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Right. And in some places that's a down deposit on a house, you know?
Yes.
Right. That's a significant amount of money. And that saying, clearly they don't see me. Clearly they don't give a shit about who I am. They're just worried about losing somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, you know what, Susie, Fred, whoever it might be, you know, we really value you. We appreciate you. Maybe we've not told you enough of that in the past. But, you know, tell us what we're missing here. Tell us where are strengths that we don't see. What is it you really want to do inside this company? We see a future for you here, and we'd like to see, you know, is it inside the realm of where you're operating? Is it more expansive? Is it narrowed? What is it for you? And then when you tell us, let's see how we can make that work. And you know what? As a bonus, because we do really appreciate you, we're going to give you a chunk more change. And we're going to make sure that over the next 2 years, your job evolves into that. They would have had that person for $50K and have been delighted, over the moon. And here's the thing that I am always constantly like, I'm about this, I'm evangelical about this, is like your employees should be your recruiters.
Exactly.
And when you say, I'm going to throw $100,000 at you, that's not going to make a recruiter. That's going to make somebody who may bring somebody in, but they're going to bring somebody in saying, you want a chunk of change, go work there. You just got to stick it out for a couple of years. As opposed to, this is a wonderful place to work. These people really took the time to understand me. They found out about my strengths that they didn't even know about. And now I've got this job and I'm moving into this position and it's so wonderful and I feel fulfilled every day and my life is on purpose. Come on. Like, for me, it's like, wake the up. Right.
I'm right there with you. I got my pom-poms behind you going, let's wake up. It's insane. I mean, and if you were listening to this and you're thinking, wow, that sounds really rah-rah and woo-woo. I mean, we can back this up with some really solid data and financial facts around the cost of attrition, replacement, brand reputation in the market, and customer attrition, the time for onboarding, productivity declines, increases in your health insurance. So we can give you all the data of why it is no longer okay to be in a transactional relationship with your employees. It has to be a relationship, give and take, clarity, openness, communication. It does not mean you're not going to be profitable. I'm going to suggest if you take this approach, you're going to be wildly profitable, much more so than you are today.
It's going to cost you 1.5 times the annual salary of that individual to find somebody to replace them. And it's going to take you 2.5 times that person for them to come up to value over a period of 2 years. So if they don't stay with you for 2 years, you lost a shitload of money. Right?
And they're probably not going to stay with you, Doug, to your point, if you bring them into a culture where everybody's like, this place sucks. I don't know why you're here. So they're going to get into your organization. And because it's not healthy and we do not have employees who are thriving, that door is going to continue to rotate and out they go. And then we have a brand reputation. So, I mean, don't discount what happens on Glassdoor and social media. I mean, the days of being insular and being able to control the narrative are gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gone. You do not control it.
So there's an interesting thing here, Carson, that I want to bring up with you. Because it's one of the things I've seen working in the way that I do with companies is there is a medium band of people who sort of stayed and did okay through the pandemic. Okay. You know, there are people who dropped off entirely and, you know, it just damaged the hell out of their business and maybe even took them under. And there are another chunk of people who went through the roof. Their business exploded, right? And I'm thinking about a company that I know who are, well, let's not go into the industry they're in, but they're global. And they are scaling up so damn fast. And I keep saying to them, you know, they're complaining constantly that we can't keep anybody. But their answer is, we got to have more people, right? Because we're scaling up with, I mean, they're consuming other companies like it's crazy, right? They're just eating up these companies and they're growing exponentially, but there's no culture. And I'm like, this is a ticking time bomb.
Yes, it is.
Waiting to happen. But your board is saying, this is fantastic. We've got bigger company, we've got bigger profits, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and I feel for the CEO because he's getting the pressure from the board. We need to be big, profitable.
Absolutely.
And his head of HR, global head of HR, who is my client, she's dying. She's dying and everybody under her is dying. And he has to listen to both sides. And I do communicate with him too. And it's like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, that you're squeezed. But if you don't recognize this, this is a bomb about to go off in your own head.
It is. And it's, I know we share this. It's building your business on sand. Yeah. Right. The culture is not rock. Right. And that whole parable of where are you building your house, it's sand. Exactly. And if we're not looking at the culture, there's a problem. Now, I'm interested, this is what you're hearing from your clients around culture, and I have to be in the office to quote build culture. Because I'm suggesting to folks, there's this model that I'm working with in my head around it, that culture is about how you connect internally and externally with your team members and your vendors. And it's this social, emotional needs, trust, communication. It's how you collaborate. So how do you get the work done internally and externally within the teams, and then with our vendors, and then how you compete in the market and show up. Right. All of those don't require co-location. Right. But what they do require is co-creation, yes, communication, care, clarity. And so, you know, your global CHRO is absolutely dying because she's not able to build it, right? No. She's not able to create this because it takes time. And if we're on an acquisition spree, folks are coming in and you've got a merging of multiple entities and cultures that hasn't been smoothed out and refined, it's a very difficult place for them to be.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary challenge. Um, and I've worked with companies, and I remember one company I walked away from because I said, you are building something huge and enormous, and congratulations on doing that. I can't be part of this. And they said, why? I said, because I don't want to be on board when you go under. I'm willing to stop you going under, but you want to keep digging holes in the ship while I'm polishing the brassware. That's not going to work, right? So you want me to polish the brassware, and you want to keep drilling holes in the boat. It's going to go down, and that's. I mean, I really believe that sometimes and it's difficult for us humans to slow down in order to speed up, right?
Absolutely.
And at a cultural level, and at that communication level, and that willingness to collaborate level, that is so much a part of it. I mean, it's what you were saying in part one, that sitting down and having those individual conversations. People go, I haven't got time for that. You haven't got time not to do it.
And that's what I would suggest. I mean, that is the other big pushback. I recognize we all have the same 168 hours in a week. I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have the time not to have the conversation. And oh, by the way, are you telling yourself that this is going to be a 3-hour conversation? Well, let me tell you the truth. It will not be.
No.
It is not a 3-hour conversation. It is best done, I would suggest and coach you, in series of smaller, bite-sized conversations that you have 10 minutes here. You have 20 minutes here that you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's very important. So let's look at this. One of the things that I know you must bang up against all the time, which is the fixed mind, right? And the unwillingness to change, and the belief that it is this way, and at the same time, on the other side of it, a sunk cost bias, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that and confronting that.
Mm-hmm. So we'll start with that fixed mindset. So this comes from Julian Rotter, who's a psychologist. He talks about an internal versus external locus of control. So an internal locus of control asserts that I have agency, I'm at choice, I can choose to navigate whether or not I make this my dream job or not. That's an internal locus of control. An external locus of control is the world happens to me. Dove didn't acknowledge me in the meeting. The barista got my coffee wrong. My life completely sucks because it's happening to me. There's no agency. Right. That aligns much more with a fixed kind of set mindset of that it is what it is. I know what I know, can't do much more. So where we want to move is to that internal locus of control, that sense of agency, and pull on Carol Dweck's in that growth mindset that I don't know all there is to know. My brain is a muscle. It can grow, it can develop. There's a new idea. We're going to have customer service hours from 7 to 10 p.m. And I had the agency to say I need it. That's where we want to go. But it takes work. And we're back to that self-awareness. So we have where we want to go, internal locus of control, growth mindset. And then as a business, we've got the sunk cost of, we've just always done it this way.
Right.
We've built this business this way. We have systems, we have technology, we have corporate office space. Our KPIs are in this system this way. We have spent so much time, money, and effort, sunk costs, and we have loss aversion. So I'm going to give all that up. So that is the tension that our leaders are facing right now. And it is a very difficult place to be.
I mean, the sunk cost bias piece is, for me, is a particularly fascinating one because you've spent $1 million on a system that worked very well, and then the pandemic came. The world is a different world. And now you're saying, but we spent $1 million. And, right, you bought 14 loaves of bread, you put them in the freezer because it's your favorite bread. And now you've just been to the doctor and you found out you are highly allergic to wheat. Well, what are you going to say? Well, I'll just eat this bread. Yeah, and end up in the hospital with pain and suffering and all the rest of it. Like, come on, like, you know, if you're living in the United States and you go to a hospital for overnight, that's going to cost you a couple of quid. So, you know, it's fascinating to me. I mean, and this is the thing around sticking in jobs too. Sunk cost bias. I've been here for 3 years. I've put my time in. Or we trained them and we spent money on training them. And, you know, we can't just let them go. Let them go, please. Let them go. Like, give them the freedom to go out and create something that's better for them, you know, instead of sinking more cost into somebody who doesn't want to bloody be there. If you don't want to be there, you don't want to be with me, fantastic. I love you. Good night. Go. Right? Love them enough to let them go.
Yep, that's exactly it. And I think the good news in this, and you've written extensively about this sunk cost and loss aversion, is that collectively, because of the global pandemic, it's not just one industry that's been disrupted, everyone is. And so collectively, everyone is having to look at systems and processes and hiring and measurement and buildings and space. And so that for me means all of us are going to lose money in service of creating what's new, with the goal of being more profitable if you can let go of the old.
Very good. Absolutely.
I think one other thing I would add, and I really wish this was my quote, but it's not, because I think it's brilliant. But this is Glennon Doyle's quote. And she suggests, you live by imagination, not indoctrination. Mm. And indoctrination, I would say in the context of our conversation around corporate, is around status quo, always done it this way, where we're back to this sunk cost loss aversion. Mm-hmm. And imagination and possibilities and what's next is where we're going to find our greatest opportunity. Individually and collectively, I think as a society, and ultimately our businesses will find greater profitability if they can hold that place of, I don't know what's possible, I wonder.
You know, as you say all this, where we come back to is something you and I talked about right at the beginning of part one, which is that I mean, of course, there's a hierarchy of power. I'm the employee, you're the employer. I'm the employer, you're the employee. It's never going to level out. I understand that, but we've got to level it out a lot more. And one of the things you talk about in the book, and it's, for me, it's everything, is that employees and employers have to recognize first and foremost that we're in relationship. Yes. And it's not a word that we like to use in a professional sense, you know, especially in these, you know, times where everybody's freaking out about getting canceled or whatever the hell it might be, or what's appropriate or inappropriate. But this is a relationship. And if we don't approach it like a relationship, then it becomes transactional, as you said. And nobody feels good about that. Nobody feels good about that. So talk to us about why you believe the relationship between employees and employers is more than a job, but it is a psychological and a social contract. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll start with the social piece. I believe it's a social contract because it is, to me, based on social exchange theory. I mean, this is how we interact, is give and take. I come with a skill, I come with a strength, I give it to you in exchange for compensation and fulfillment, acknowledgement at work. There is always a psychological contract that comes with it. I mean, that's a piece of when you join an organization that comes with it. What I think we've done is we've stripped the human piece out of this and just made it this transaction. Carson has a skill in writing. I'm going to pay her $10. That's all that's needed. We're forgetting, I think, the social, emotional, and the psychological contract here. And we've done that, I think, because people are messy. We're feeling beings that are occasionally rational. I mean, I don't know that I've been rational this week, lots of feeling this week. And it's hard work. I mean, what you and I are talking about, what we tell our clients to do is not easy work. It's conversations, it's questions, it's coaching, it's holding tension of possibility, it's being a little scared and a little vulnerable and what if, all of which isn't easy. But I would suggest that the Great Resignation is telling us that the way we've worked in the past is not the way that we will work in the future.
So with that, what do you see as the future of work? Because, I'm seeing this, and I was speaking to one of the big four and said, they were saying that they want their people to come back all into the office and everybody has to be vaccinated or else they're going to get canned. And I'm like, oh my God, do you want to go out of business? So there's this, I still think that there's this impetus to, quote, get back to normal. Normal's been dead for a while, dude. Right? So what do you see as the future of work?
Yeah, so the future of work, I do believe, is relationship, where I co-create as a team member with my organization to create a culture and an experience that fulfills me and serves our clients and the planet and humanity in the highest possible way. I also think the future of work isn't necessarily job specific, but we're going to start to get very clear on these are the tasks or the products or the projects that actually serve our customers. And I'm going to get so clear on that I'm going to match you up and know that this brings you meaning and this is fulfilling for you. And you have got an unbelievable strength here to do this task for me. And I believe it's going to be fluid. I'm not sure that we will go back 100% into an office. I do believe this hybrid, digital, and essential model is here to stay.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. As we come towards the end of this part of the show, again, this is about how any job can be your dream job. And let's sort of bring people back to that for this moment and just say, okay, what does that mean? Like, what's the punch in the nose that people have to get around? Any job can be your dream job, but it requires you to
define the dream.
Define the dream, right? Take the time to define the dream for you. And I think that other people, unless you take that time, you're living in somebody else's dream. Somebody else has defined it. And of course you're going to be pissed off, you're frustrated because, as Carson was saying just a moment ago, the future of work is now, and the future of work is collaboration. It's a relationship that is collaborative. It is a co-creative one, and it's so important. So if you get to wave the magic wand, Carson, and give this one sort of law that has to be passed across leadership, what is it? Like what are all leaders have to start doing this tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.
Co-create the future of your business with your team members.
Like, take that time. As busy as you think you are, I want to tell you that as busy as you think you are, that busyness is the same avoidance you had before the pandemic from what really matters.
Exactly. So busyness is just as addictive as any other substance. It's a numbing out. It's I choose not to look at. So can you be uncomfortable enough to have a conversation, co-create with me, a workplace and a business where I thrive and the business thrives? It's possible, but you've just got to take the time to do it and be courageous. We haven't even said that piece. This does take courage and vulnerability.
But, part of my central philosophy is curiosity. You got to be curious with these people. right? You got to be curious and get outside of your fixed mindset about what you think your boss will or won't do. You got to be curious about what your employee will do, despite your fixed mindset about what you think they will do. So curiosity, and that curiosity in and of itself takes courage. So sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I can ask this. Yeah, you can. I have that courage, and then also have the courage to the next C, which is collaboration, to collaborate with them through healthy communication, right? Through absolutely healthy communication, and see if, and this is difficult, I get it.
Yeah.
But see if you can just park your ego at the door for a minute and shut up and listen. And I'll give you a clue in how to do it. If you want to bond with people, all bonding takes place through reciprocal vulnerability. Share what's difficult for you first, and they will open up. You know, Susie, Fred, since the pandemic, this has been very difficult for me in this job. And I want to consult with you and the other people who work here, because this is a challenge we're facing. I really would like to get your input on it, right? Because I'm struggling with it. Okay, I'm open. Right. So that courage and that is, so, you know, which you highlighted there is so important, but it's the courage to be vulnerable so that you can be curious, so that you can collaborate and co-create. Mm-hmm. Carson, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. It's been a real pleasure. Again, I want to make sure that people know where they can find out more about you, about the book, and all the other resources. Please share that.
So you can find out more about me and the work that we do with leaders and organizations on our website, workingsimply.com. So that's our company, workingsimply.com. If you want to connect on social, please do it. I'm on LinkedIn, the Carson Tate. And then the book, Own It, Love It, Make It Work, How to Turn Any Job into Your Dream Job, available in all your outlets, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you like to buy your books. Or if you don't want a book, it's also available on Audible if you want to listen.
Oh, fabulous. Again, thank you, Carson. It's been a pleasure and a joy.
Thank you.
And for you, dear listener, remember you can hang out with other conscious leaders. You can chat about this episode or any past episodes inside of our LinkedIn or Facebook groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty podcast. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If your employees and your customers don't understand what gives your company meaning, they're only working at a fraction of your true capability. To find out how you can hire me, Dov Baron, as a speaker or leadership strategist for yourself or your organization, simply go to dovbaron.com. That's DOVBARON.com. Because unified, actualized meaning is the one single monolithic difference between mediocrity and greatness for all individuals and companies. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everyone you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how you can co-create your dream job, but you got to have the courage to ask the questions of yourself before you ask the questions of anybody else. I'm Dov Baron, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deepest meaning to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.